Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session on auto industry. The title is "Future of Auto Industry in India." Uh, Before we start our discussions, I would like to introduce a few concepts of 12th Asian Metallurgy. As you know, as a lot many of you know, Asian Metallurgy was started as a ground show way back in 1997. But since advent of COVID, I mean, it was transformed to digital platform, and last 2 years, this is the third year, in fact, we are conducting this event on a digital platform. What this event consists of? This event consists of a global exhibition which has virtual stands, and of course, it can be accessed from anywhere in the world and can be accessed 24 by 7, and all transparency is there in the digital format. These are the few advantages of digital format. And along with the exhibition, we have these webinars. Every day we have two webinars which are on the subject which are relevant to the metallurgical industry. So today is the first webinar which is on auto industry, future of auto industry in India. Why this is the first webinar is the reason is auto is such a sector which is customer of steel industry also, which is customer of foundries also, which is customer of metal industry also. So this is the actual customer industry for the whole metallurgical manufacturing industry and processing industry. So everybody is interested in the future of auto industry because their future is in a way linked with the auto industry. So this is a very important topic for all of us, very close to our heart, and so we are conducting this webinar, first webinar in fact, after the inauguration on auto industry. And I would, request Mr. Udayan Pathak, who has been associated with our events since very, very long, and who has got a lot of experience in the industry as well. He was heading the world-class quality department in Tata Motors, and now he is consultant himself and chairman of ASM International Pune chapter. So I will hand over the you know thing to Mr. Udayan Pathak. Before that, I would like to introduce our speakers, our panelists, in fact. Uh, I am happy to uh, welcome Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe, who is MS in Manufacturing Management from BITS Pilani and MMS Master of Management Science from Pune. Industry experience is more than 41 years, 13 years with Bajaj Auto, 20 years with Mahindra and Mahindra, and last 8 years in ARAI. He retired on 31/8 2023 as Senior Deputy Director and HOD PSS series of I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Nibandhe, but unfortunately his video is not on, and we are sure that his video will be on very soon. So welcome Mr. Nibandhe for this interesting panel discussion. Then we have Mrs. Sanjiv Mantri, who is senior ex-chief engineer and consultant PPBU of Tata Motors. Welcome, Mr. Mantri, for this panel discussion. And we have Mr. C.H. Sharma, who is again a veteran from steel industry. He has spent lot of years in Mukun Limited. He has been the coordinator of Mukun Kalyani joint venture in hospital in the form of hospital steel. Today also Mr. Sharma is consulting and advising lot many special steels companies, and I am very delighted that he is here with us. As Mr. Udayan Pathak, along with Mr. Udayan Pathak, Mr. C.H. Sharma is also associated with our shows for since very long. So welcome, Mr. Sharma, to this interesting panel discussion. And now I hand over the not mic exactly, but I hand over the charge to Mr. Udayan. He is the host of this panel discussion. Over to Udayan.
Thank you, Mr. Sandekar, for nice setting the context of this first webinar on this 12th Asian Metallurgy Conference Expo. Uh, as all of us know, uh, Indian industry is passing through a very peculiar scenario last couple of years. I think there is some echo. So those who are not speaking, if Mr. Sandekar, you can mute from your side so that it will not break. Yeah. Uh, so Indian industry is passing through a very peculiar situation. A lot of changes are happening. Uh, some of them are kind of forced ones. Some of them are kind of the voluntary decisions by government. In fact, the focus on the safety has gone up uh, with a very serious background. That when Mr. Modi took over first time as the prime minister of this country, and his ministry took the oath, the very next day, in a road accident, one of the senior minister from his team, Mr. Gopinath Munde, who also happened to be from Maharashtra, met with an accident. In terms of we as an automotive industry, if we look at that accident, it was really very minor accident. Uh, but then the question comes, with minor accident, how come Mr. Uh, Gopinath Munde, has succumbed to his injury? The reason was he was not wearing seat belt, and since that moment, Honorable Prime Minister had made it compulsory that all the ministers must wear their safety belt while they are traveling, including himself. So many times, if you see Honorable Prime Minister traveling in a car, you can see that the first thing he does is he puts on his safety belt. And probably with that loss, government has become very very serious for the safety, and then safety norms were tightened. At the same time, uh, the lot of infrastructure development is happening, and earlier the maximum speed on the road was about 60 kilometers per hour. It has enhanced to 80 kilometers initially on the Mumbai Pune Express Highway, later now to all national highways in India, because they have the infrastructure has gone up. This 60 speed has gone to 80, and with the express highways like Samruddhi, the speeds have gone up to 120 kilometers per hour. What it means? Yes, definitely it means a faster travel and everything. But at the same time, in case there happens to be any accident, the way it has to be addressed, the way it has to be tackled, or the safety measures that has to be provided by the OEMs and auto manufacturers have gone up multiple times. The speed has gone from 60 to 130, more than double. So I think as we move ahead, we'll go through more about how these speeds and accidents are being handled on the safety norms. On the other side, our governmental commitment to the environment has put a lot of restrictions on the emission norms, etc. So with all this background, the role of steel, particularly in the vehicle, and other metals have substantially gone up. And with that background, we decided to have this panel discussion. We have eminent panelists touching upon all these aspects of the automotive industry. So I would like to start with Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe. Mr. Nibandhe, we would like to know what are the kind of different regulations. Those are have come in last couple of years and are in pipeline to come in next 5 to 10 years, so that it's going to affect the automotive industry. Over to you, Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe.
Good afternoon, first of all, and sorry for some technical glitches from my side. I think the camera has not working right now, so you have to bear with me. The first and foremost thing, and thanks to Chandekar sir and Udayan Pathak, being the safety topic has been chosen for this panel discussion, and this area is one of the important area as the car industry, automotive industry is growing. It is very, very important for us to understand what are the scenarios with the car industry. You must have heard recently that B NCAP has been implemented in Indian scenario by the road ministry. And this B NCAP is basically nothing but assuring all the car users, the occupants inside the car, as well as some pedestrian who are working on the road, who can meet with an accident has been protected with some regulations. Now let us learn what are these regulations are helping us, and what is it interpretation as a part of car manufacturers to consider, so that this type of accident prevention can be taken into consideration. So first and foremost thing, the law which has been enforced in last 3 years is already talking about safety belts, and which you are very well aware. Udayan has quoted about Gopinath Munde's case. Yes, similar cases are there, like Mistry has also gone, he has lost his life in that case. So why people are also not being very considerate about the safety belts is the million dollar questions. But apart from the safety belt, it is trying to retain you in the position. However, the new regulations which are talking about is also to see that the injuries are minimized. The way the person is protected in case of accident is basically taken into a level where all such kind of a mitigation of risk is enabled, and the scenarios are created well in advance, so that vehicles has been considered as a safe to drive. So it is most important for all of us to understand there are AIS 98, 99, 101. These are the different impacts which happens in case of car. So face-to-face collision or frontal collision, which is more important, which is more critical also. What happens exactly when people are driving the vehicle to say 100, 120 kmph and meeting with a frontal accident? The collision impact to the passengers inside is a much vast. So where this energy impact energy will be dissipated, it will be definitely transferred to the passengers, and it needs a major role to play in the construction of vehicle. So all those vehicles needs this kind of a dampener system by which the energy is being absorbed. Similarly, new regulations talks about the frontal collision as well as the side impact as well as the rear impact also. In case of the side impacts, generally the severe conditions are with the hitting with tree or hitting with pole is being considered. In such cases, the direct intrusion may happen and it may create a damage to driver or the passenger who are sitting in the back row. So such cases need to be very well evaluated well in advance. They need to be protected. Whatever the intrusion may happen, it needs some protection devices. And you are well aware, couple of devices such as airbag has been placed. So some talks has also been discussed in few cases that whether to make it 2 airbags is compulsory or 6 airbags is compulsory. Let us not go into that part of it, because the some elements which are pertaining to that is equally very risky for that matter. So how to mitigate risk is more important. But what OEM face challenges is also one of the trigger which we have to take it forward in terms of energy absorption, minimum deformation, minimum impact, minimum injury to the occupants inside. With this note, I think there are many cases which can be discussed in this forum, and that will help us to take this discussion forward. Over to you then.
Thank you. Let me, yeah. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Nibandhe, for giving the kind of overview about what's happening as far as the legal requirements which are coming up and which are being forced, like BNCAP, etc. So basically, the people who need to certify these is the agencies like ARAI, etc. For probably buses, it would be CIRT and all other NATRIP, etc. Uh, However, the people who are going to address this and people who are going to make sure that the vehicles what they are producing or what they have designed are capable to address these kind of challenges are the OEM manufacturers. So we have Sanjiv Mantri, Mr. Sanjiv Mantri from Tata Motors, who has been the chief engineer of the vehicle and now is a consultant to Tata Motors. So he has done extensive work in this area. So over to you, Mr. Mantri, and we'd like to hear particularly how the automotive industry is trying to address these particular challenges and what it means to you. Over to you, Mr. Mantri.
Thanks, Udayan and Nibandhe also for giving the idea about the regulations and rules that coming up. Basically, it's all matter for the life and safety of the people. And as we all are agreeing that the development in India or across globe is happening because of the road conditions which are improving. The road speeds are allowing more and more speeds. So these are the some different conditions than what we were experiencing a few decades before. Though seatbelt was mandatory earlier also, but still the usage was an issue. But when it comes to an design a car and the vehicles, actually what we face is to a different scenario because we have to meet those regulations and particular load conditions arising because of all these situations. Typically, when we say seat belt is a simplest thing anybody will understand. But the thing is, seat belt itself has to undergo a lot of stresses. The belt has to be addressed. The particular belt condition, its materials are to be addressed by the suppliers. And the seat belt, where it is mounted in a car, those mounting points has to undergo lot of stress. And the locally it may deform or it has to absorb certain energy, and it has got certain time conditions also, like within certain milliseconds it has to respond and it has to just stop the person moving ahead. The or deceleration of a person has to be controlled. Some such conditions are to be maintained, and all these things are done by the belt retractors mounted and the body shell itself. When we say the crash, there are many ways it is being defined. Even the side crash, door intrusion, frontal crash, rear crash. Though in India, rear is not mandatory, but all other crash, even frontal offset and all these conditions when we meet. And the latest new conditions coming in like NCAP. NCAP addresses towards overall higher rating from European. It is probably somewhat inspired for us. It gives a stringent condition for hazard and how what type of injuries are has to be addressed for a particular person. Now, the all these things depend on if it is a front crash. Just to imagine, there are front crash members and bonnet that is on front side and engine. When there is a crash, the front first bumper bends and then the crash members bend, and then it hits engine, and the whole structure is being pushed back to the passengers. And the load path is very important, and the members within the load path has to absorb that energy. And here it is not just a rigid member, but it has to undergo the deformation in a particular fashion, so that within stipulated or certain milliseconds it has to absorb the energy of crash or impact. That is most important. So the design of the structure, it depends on the energy being absorbed by the members. Now it comes to the point that during that period the airbag has to deploy and the belt has to react, and the passenger has to be stopped from hitting in on front dashboard or a steering wheel. So there are complicated engineering between these two. I will not enter into more details, but all these things has to happen with a synchronous and as a system together. Coming to steel part of it or materials part of it, the front members, when they are steel members, they have to absorb the energy. Typically we know the steel has to steel may typically designed for low deflection in a normal construction way, but in case of car, when it deforms, the deformation energy is very important. It should allow certain deformation, it should not crack, bend and break into pieces. And the energy absorption and the collapse of the frontal crash member, that is very important, and that is where the materials come in. And of course there are many ways of talking about it, and this is the material part of it. Even for door side intrusion, there are some crash members or the door intrusion members, and so on. The structure has to be designed accordingly. The metals what we are using there, they have to provide that much energy and the particular criteria, particular yield strength of the of the particular structure and component. Obviously, all this design has to happen through CAE, and the topology or the load paths and the crash members, their location, their relative positions are to be designed through CAE. And the whole structure then deforms, and it allows particular way of the deformation and particular time bound activities that are happening during the crash. So that is the most important thing. Just to start, since we are discussing, I'm going to into much depth, but what it means is we have to have different type of strength of materials And and since the speed of vehicles are increasing, the vehicles are going from normal hatch to sedan to SUV type of vehicles. Their weights are increasing. Electrical vehicles are coming, and the load capacity, people want more. The load capacities are increasing, road speeds are increasing, and at the same time, the most important thing, market is asking for more and more features. So customer is asking more and more details of the engineering content of the vehicle. When a vehicle is loaded with so many instruments, so many other gadgets, then naturally weight goes on increasing. So what it means is, there is on one side there is an increasing demand of the more and more safety. Another side, you are adding more and more weight, but at the same time, for general global carbon and all other purposes, you want the better fuel efficiency and low carbon emission. You want a less weight. So all these are contradictory things. That is where the contradiction, I will just to begin with, I will stop here. So you can continue with that.
Thanks, Mr. Mantri, for putting the perspective in a very briefly and very elaborate manner at the same time. Definitely, this challenge, what as a OEM you are facing, I think has really opened up the lot of opportunities for steel industry, particularly the special steels, like the kind of, as you have indicated, the kind of the crash requirements, the kind of response of the vehicle in terms of the accident, etc. That needs a lot of change, and of course, on the other side, the lightweight, because of the fuel efficiency and enhanced environmental requirement, those are coming on the automotive vehicles. So these contradictory requirements has really opened up the lot of opportunities, or has given a big platter of opportunity to the steel mills and special steel industry. So Mr. Sharma, with this background, I would like to have your views as to how Indian and global automotive industry, rather steel industry, is have been moving forward, and where do we stand, and as to how this steel industry can support to meet the requirements of OEM, and in terms meet the legal frame that has been formed by the regulatory authorities. So over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Pathak. Uh, you know, I joined the steel industry some 52 years back, and when I used to see the vehicles on the road getting breakdowns, and you know, uh, I was thinking that what is going wrong, and I really first 10 or 12 years of my life, I found that there is no quality consciousness either in manufacturing or by the user. So it is steel. That's the what they used to think. But as we grow, maybe mid 80s, when we went for a vacuum degassing or lateral refining processes, we understood that the steel which is coming for companies like Maruti or company like Hero was from Japan, which was having a lot of stringent requirement, and we were wondering whether it is really required. But I
Right.
would say that last 20 odd years, if you see, the steel industry has met all the challenges. Today, we can say we can meet this international requirement of steel. You know, the auto ancillaries are exporting a lot of component, which is meeting the
Right.
requirement, whether it is Europe or it is America, or even Japanese companies are approving the steel mills for requirements, not for Japan, but at least for India and maybe other countries, So I will say that the steel industry, maybe now there are 12 or 14 players which have a very good facility to manufacture steel. I have worked with three of them, but I can tell you that others are also catching up very fast. And uh, to meet the requirement of the high strength or high ductility or high elongation, all these are requires a very special control of the steel. Basically, I will say that we have to go for a control of whether it is trace element, it is control of gases, control of inclusions. I think today the steel industry can meet the challenge, and requirement of steel industry, which I feel that the auto industry needs something like 5 million ton of steel only for forging quality and such structural. And I think we are already geared up to meet that challenge of almost 7 million ton. And maybe next 8-10 years, I don't see there is any, shortage of steel for auto industry. So if it is defined that we need certain properties, I think it can be met by steel industry. Now, most of the steel makers are very conscious. They have their own R&Ds or technical, you can say, cell or technical people who can understand the requirement and they can translate into final, steel, and also can suggest which steel to be used for which component. So with this, I think I'll stop here and maybe Mr. Pathak can take over from here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, giving the kind of readiness of our Indian industry to support the requirements from the automotive OEMs, which are being becoming day by day stringent and kind of contradictory because of the various legal and regulatory requirements those are coming up. Uh, so again, as I said, lot of turmoils are happening, and one of the areas which is happening, and the government seems to be really very serious about it. Not only the Indian government, but globally, it looks like many countries are very very serious about migrating from the fossil fuels. Well, I think last week only there was an international conference and there was a conclave wherein the governmental agencies and particularly the ministers and policy makers of the governments from all over the world they meet. Though there was not really a clear cut kind of agreement with everyone, or rather everybody agreeing to the proposal which was being put forward, most of the governments have in principle agreed that yes, they need to move away from the fossil fuel, at least for the automotive. May not be for the kind of generators and ships, etc., but immediately for the automotive, they are looking for in the near future and the near horizon of the future, they would like to migrate to the non-fossil fuel. And when we talk about the non-fossil fuel, the first thing that comes to my mind is the electric vehicle. Electrical vehicle on one side is supporting us for the uh, kind of green environment, etc., on one side. At the same time, the way these new regulations which are coming up, I think also have this electric vehicle changeover is also putting a lot of challenges for the automotive industry. But particularly when we are migrating from the IC engine based engines vehicles to electric vehicles, a lot of regulations are coming up, particularly considering the fact that in IC engine based vehicles, the major chunk of the vehicle is in the form of engine, and which is accommodated in the front bonnet, under the bonnet and front portion of the vehicle. uh, at the same time, with this particular configuration of the vehicle, there is some dynamics of the vehicle. Whereas in case of the electric vehicle, the major weight which comes from the battery, that weight is particularly spread over the entire bottom portion or entire flooring of the car. In case of buses, this entire weight which is coming from the battery is migrated to the roof of the buses. So this has definitely changed the complete vehicle dynamics. And I would like to again go to Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe to understand how the regulatory requirements are being placed around to ensure that these kind of the changing dynamics of the vehicles are getting addressed, both in terms of the safety as well as probably other regulatory requirements. So over to you, Mr.
Thank you then for catching up the right point. The EV growth itself, the numbers will be astonishing for us. Last month, 2023, two-wheeler sales talks about 8 lakhs of vehicles. If you compare with the three-wheelers, it is 4.8 lakhs of the vehicles. And passenger vehicles, cars particularly, is 64,000 plus. So these numbers are telling us this is going to increase in multifold in the future year of time. As you are well aware that Europe is working on zero ICE engines by 2020, 2030. Similarly, India may also target not as fast as Europe, but definitely the scale will go up to 2040 or maybe 2050 as well. But 100% switchover may happen by that time. So regulations related to these EVs are equally stringent. They also talk about more safety in terms of the hazard part of it, in terms of the burning part of it, and we have few cases in India where the scooters are found to be having the catching the fire, or sometimes cars also been noticed with catching the fires. So what it makes very serious about it, there are two aspects to it. The construction wise, yes, one part I would like to definitely touch upon is the electrical connections, particularly anything above 48-volt system, which is talked about, is a hazardous part of it. So it has to be dealt not by the normal mechanics who are working on the roadside, but there has to be a special gadgets, special tools, special PPEs to be take care of it. Similarly, for all such matters, when these two-wheelers or three-wheelers or even cars which are plying on the road, why it get heated up and start burning? So simple reason is the overdrawn current by the system is the foremost reason. Again, if we talk about the cables which are connected, it is meant either of copper or aluminum is one area where we need to look into. But the insulation which has been protecting the cables, particularly in the car or vehicles, two-wheelers, we need to see that the quality of these protectors are properly taken care. So PVC coating, even if it is there, it has to be definitely seen in the perspective of the heating temperature zone by which it should be withstand. So that is one area. Similarly, when we talk about all those crash norms, it is another perspective where the risk level goes multiple folds. In case of side accident or in case of the rear accidents, so whatever goes to the car level, it is equally risky and it is considered as a more probability of catching the fire. So any connection which is earthing with any of the body metal part, similarly any connections where it is likely to lose the battery position, how the battery is mounted, how that kind of a situation has to be made foolproof. And these mountings, these terminals connections, or even the battery internally soldered with the another cell, like thousands of cells have been used in this. So parallel series, whatever the conditions of the cell connections has been done, how safely and how meticulously it has been done. So these are the areas prominently has to be looked by the OEMs, and OEMs need to play very safe game. It is always said that one case of burning will lose thousands of your vehicles in the market, and that kind of a damage is to be protected very well by all the OEMs. Yes, we do encourage new startups, new people coming into the market, and they may be aware, they may not be aware about all those requirements. So looking forward for all such testing of battery mounting areas, the vibrations which happens through the road, the kind of environmental conditions in India, particularly India being the tropical country, it varies from something like, I would say, minus 10 degrees Leh Ladakh to the extent of Rajasthan where the temperature goes above 50 also. So in such circumstances, how it has been protected, how it has been well considered as a OEM to work in that kind of a safe zone is most trivial areas to work upon. So for me, there is one more challenge I would like to say that today it is, yes, it is the start of it. The lithium ion is being talked very high level. Most of the people are using lithium ion batteries, lithium polymer batteries, and the lithium by itself, by nature of hazardous metal, it is also talked about how you are going to take care at the end of the life of lithium ion. Maybe today thousands of battery cells, particularly I would say refer to the mobile which are being used by many people of us. And these cells, as compared to the car level cells, the size and the capacity wise, it goes to very high level. When you are expecting the range performance, the battery capacity also expects to be very, very high level, and the risk level will also get enhanced in multiple folds. So look at the overall perspective. The regulations always talk about to make it preventive, make it safer, make it very, very considerate beforehand testing, and make sure that a safe vehicles only goes in on the road. So look at that perspective where we need to definitely work very cautiously, work very safely, so that even though road mechanics or even though the passenger who are standing on the road should not be affected by any chance. So these are the hazardous areas where we have to work upon. And my stake into this is we have to see that all those safe vehicles should only go on the road, and risk minimization for common man should be definitely a biggest objective behind it. Over to you there.
Thanks, Mr. Nibandhe, for again pointing out the issues related with the electric vehicle and particularly the areas which are becoming in past, which has proved to be little fatal, and the regulations which are upcoming to make sure that such fatalities should not happen to the passengers as well as even to the roadside mechanics, which really, I mean, is really probably the least considered element in the whole ecosystem of the automotive vehicle, automotive and the automotive complete automobile industry. So when I was thinking about this electric vehicles, one of the change I noticed is on the one side, since the vehicle is becoming more and more electronic gadget, in the sense lot of electronic control units, ECUs are getting added, which to a common man we call computers. So many computers are getting added in the electric vehicle. On the other side, like probably when we all panelists were in our we were kids, that time probably our cars had only two motors. One is the motor which is operating the wiper, and other one is probably the generator. Today there are so many number of motors associated with various operations in the vehicle, and what it means is they are the potential sources of generating electromagnetic radiations. And on the other side, these electromagnetic waves which are being generated will interfere with the functioning and in terms of the complete architecture of the vehicle. So over to you, Mr. Sanjay Mantri, as to how this issue is getting today addressed by OEM, and do you expect any value addition, like for example, say one-sided resistance or fire retardant kind of steels from the steel industry, or kind of some coatings which can be probably attenuate the electromagnetic voltage which is generated by all this system. Like how this opportunity you see, how we are addressing as a OEM this challenge, and what you see as an opportunity for steel industry. So over to you, Mr.
Yeah.
Mantri, to Mr. Mantri.
Actually, all these things we are discussing very broad subjects in a very short time. So actually, there are so many things to be talked behind, and actually there are so many connects. Actually, we are opening in the discussion. Just to start with, since we are basically starting from metals point of view, so let me start with basically electric vehicle with a battery. Battery has to be safe. Now, what happens is battery is like a heart of a vehicle, because and in that case, because any damage to battery is likely to end up into some kind of a fire, or maybe the battery has to be replaced, or maybe it end up into fire. Now the question is, we have to protect the battery like a heart in a chest, in a particular shell. It has to be armored by steel frame. That steel frame, which constitutes, is a part of the body, underbody. Now the new things coming up, because of the we want to address the weight also, and you said about dynamics. Now, since battery is already adding a huge weight, the vehicle weight has to be reduced, so body weight has to be lowered. Now these are the contradictory things. So now one of the idea which is coming out is using battery packing itself like a small element of a structure. Now, if that is the case, then there are some metallurgical things coming up. One is body shell itself is being innovated with like a foam kind of a shell structure, so which is a lightweight and which is giving a strength to battery structure itself. At the same time, the battery is located in a frame or a armor in such a fashion that the crash members or the members around it stop the any damage, or they will stop arrest the damage to the vehicle during crash reaching the battery. So that is another thing. That is like I'm saying, protecting like a heart in a chest, or a the ribs in a body. So that's from mechanical structural point of view. At the same time, we didn't discuss about one more point, which is a common across for any crash vehicles and requirement from metals. That is the going to the high strength, because we are increasing weight. Battery itself is weighing 100 to 3 400 kg in a car, and maybe total electric gadgets come to around 1000 say pounds, or maybe 3 400 500 kg in case of SUV and bigger vehicles. In case of trucks and buses, it is still more. Now, in that case, extra weight has to be borne by the structure, and the structure need to be ready for meeting the crash. If you see the difference between ICE engine and electric vehicle, is one good part coming out is engine bay is getting slightly free from engine packaging space. That space you can utilize for something else. But now the problem is, till now we have mastered into the ICE vehicles with long crash members for energy absorption and meeting the time requirement of 30 milliseconds, 29, or for 30 35 milliseconds, something like that. Okay. And now that member has suddenly become short, and that space is given to occupant. Now the designing engine bay is a different challenge. If we need kind of different kind of materials. Now, in past we were using the materials like 600 MPa, 800 MPa. Now we have gone to 1100 MPa for door intrusion members and crash members or something like that. But if you see, typically this DP materials beyond 980 MPa are form sections, and beyond that you cannot weld it. Now, if you have these kind of members, then welding of the structure itself is a challenge in materials, and that is where really the challenge comes from manufacturing side. If people remember that maybe few years before POSCO came in India, the steel, high strength steel, HSS steel cost was much more, and it was practically impossible to get with a quick some high strength material. Now we are getting some more materials. Some of the companies are now developing up to even 1500 MPa 1500 MPa using some that is Tubes India, etc. They are developing some such materials. Now, if you get that kind of a material, then another problem is these materials are having issue in welding. So how to transform that particular or use that member into my body for welding? That is another issue. So if you have to bolt it, then form it, and the forming is the issue. So we are one side, we want lightweight, we want to eliminate members, we want to make the sections thin, sheet metals thin, just to then transform, and formability is an issue, welding is an issue, but still we want everything. So these are contradictory things, and in electrical it becomes more stringent. And very interesting thing I will tell you, there are some very good discussions across net. Okay, particularly there are good study for particularly electric vehicles that is coming out is I went through one Jennifer Someday, that is American transport National Transport Safety Authority or Safety Board. She is the chairman of it. She mentioned, and even AXA, that is a Swiss regulatory authority. Another important thing for any vehicle is regulation. No, sorry, insurance. Insurance companies are not going to actually give insurance as it is. They want certain kind of assurance for it. Now, what is happening is your car, electric cars are having more acceleration because of higher electronics, as you mentioned. So they are having higher acceleration. They are accelerating quite fast before anybody understands it. They are going at a higher speed and their weights are higher. So in many cases, it has happened. They have got some data that the electric vehicle has remained safe, but it has damaged the next vehicle. So we are designing a vehicle for myself, which is safer, but I am damaging another vehicle. So this kind of conflicts are there. This is something, a new chapter opening up. And you rightly said, what is happening to electronics and all these things? Yes, definitely. But we are thinking of the artificial intelligence and new technologies coming in a vehicle. Now, artificial intelligence, when it comes in, safety is not only structure. There is some another dimension. Probably in the next round, probably you can discuss about it. But that is another part of it. But basically, from materials point of view, going to high strength, their manufacturability, their coatings, or as you said, for EMI, EMS, if we can provide some coating, there are many research topics also. what is too big? Probably manufacturing people can understand or tell about it. Like in India, even child occupant safety is coming up. That the seats are required to be with 3-point belt, etc. That is likely to come up now for central rear seat. But in that case, what happens is providing the belt anchorage points, the members there are becoming thin, and we have to have the heavy load conditions that has to be maintained by that sections. Now again, same loop of design. You want a small seat,
It's mute. Sanjay.
real problem. And all this that is happening. And secondly, the loads are also required to be higher back. Another interesting point, airbag. Suppose it's a curtain airbag, that in India also 6 airbags are also coming. Now curtain airbag is between the front and rear doors above the cantrell. And now in that area, if you package a airbag, then the handle, there is a problem for fitting handle, because that's a packaging issue. Because if you fit a handle, then the cross sectional members which are designed for strength goes on toss. These are complexities again, because we have to meet the again same cycle of materials. That's what comes in. So just for this discussion, just this point, let me stop here. So I will give it to Udayan.
Thanks again, Mr. Mantri, for putting these points, and particularly the challenge, that is the diverse requirement which are being forced on the automotive industry. And thanks that have reassured the special steel industry, because when there was the talk of people going to the electric vehicles, etc., the first calculation which steel industry particularly has done is going away with the vehicle, means going away from the crankshaft, conrod, and the people have started calculating how much steel requirement per vehicle is coming down. But I think you have reassured the steel industry that it's not that the vehicle steel consumption per vehicle is going down. Probably it's only changing the bucket, maybe from the long products, probably more challenge and more opportunities for the flat products to coming in the coming days. That is what is emerging out.
Or
So
even
probably,
honeycombs.
yeah, even honeycomb structures, yes. So probably that was not really being thought of as a kind of major share in the steel industry. So probably those structures will become the major chunk of the automotive steels, probably in the days to come. And with that, really how our steel industry is ready with to meet these kind of challenges, and particularly migration, that instead of having the rolled products or the long products which are more like forging quality steel, this migration towards the higher strength, particularly sheet metals, and challenges associated with it, like how can the steel mills adjust their chemical compositions and the metallurgy of the high strength steel to make it suitable or more friendly for the processing in terms like welding, etc. So I think these are the very nice challenges. Very, as Mr. Mantri has said, yes, there are very diverse topic, but I think he put it in a very strong nutshell with covering all the aspects. So giving his expectations from the steel mills or steel sector. So I think with this, over to you, Mr. Sharma, for your comments.
Well, see, forging industry, those are basically the our long products. Cannot manufacture flat products with the size of industry, because you need a different setup. You need a slab caster, you need a rolling mill and other things. This cannot be done. But I'm surprised that we thought maybe by 2023 we will have a very big penetration of EV vehicle. But I feel the last 6 or 8 months, the data which shows we are just on four wheeler, we are just 5.5%. So it's nothing. In two wheeler, yeah, in two wheeler and three wheeler, you have gone very big way. But as far as four wheelers are concerned, I'm finding those figures are very small. But okay, I think the volume of steel is still increasing, maybe because of other industry like tractor or agriculture machineries and all that. So special steel is not worried. Coming to the point which was made, that the welding problem, I think when you go for very high strength with the alloying and a little higher carbon, this is going to be a big problem. But I think maybe eutectic division or of L&T or some other who are into welding field can find a weldability of any steel. Normally they are the people who can develop some welding rods or to weld those structures even with high strength. Otherwise, normally we also know that there is something carbon equivalent, it cannot be done, but maybe by normal electrode, but it can be done with some special requirement, and they can develop those welding electrode, which can help us to, take high strength steel. One of the area which I am a little surprised, I was going through it, that the today a 60 kilowatt battery takes 7 to 8 hours to charge. I was really surprised, because I saw 2 years back a vehicle with my daughter having only 150 kilometer of running. She used to charge, after using 1 kilometer in just 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes. Because timing which had in the
Uh,
internet.
I think Mr. Nibandhe, if you can mute yourself, I think it's yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks.
So, So I was just surprised that the charging time is so much. Then I think popularity of EV vehicle is going to be a big question mark. If you take 7 hours to charge, I don't think you have a timing like 7 hours. We fill petrol in 10 minutes or diesel in 10 minutes. So I don't know whether how people will afford that type of charging time. If it is true, I don't know
It is
if
true.
people.
It is true. But
Udayan, I would
there
like
is
to
there,
add
there is
here.
another option also. There is another option also. There are fast charging units also now being coming out that every vehicle offers. So there you can have it out within 25 to 30 minutes. But beyond that, there is one another interesting invention kind of a thing which is happening in somewhere, I think Switzerland, by Siemens. What they have done is they have put the overhead wires for electric charging on the bus stops. That is particularly for buses. And what they are using a high voltage structure. Maybe I don't remember the number, but something like 4,000 or 4,200 volts system. But those cannot be used in a car because you have got a battery which is 40 volts, or maybe at the most you can play with some 320 or 360 volts, something like that. But you can't go to 4,600, no, 4,000 volts in a car, because otherwise it will be another issue of safety of a shock, electric shock, and something like that. So yeah, that's a big subject. But anyway, your observation is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, so just to add here, Mr. Sharma, uh, as Mr. Mantri has said something in overseas countries, what's happening, the government of India is also planning the truck base where the charging for the electric vehicles can be through the overhead kind of structure, which currently the electric trains they use through pantograph and all that, and the special dedicated corridors with those particularly heavy traffic highways the government is talking about, and honorable minister for road transport and highways seems to be very serious about it. And as Mr. Sharma has said, whether this EV will take over to that extent what people are talking about. So sir, let me tell you, the way today the government is talking looks like yes, it should happen, because two things I will tell you. When we were migrating from BS4 to BS6, one of the issue was the availability of the fuel, which is to come from the government side, and then rest of the actions after the availability of the fuel, actions by the OEMs in terms of after treatment and all those kind of additional requirement and how to handle that. Traditionally, when we were migrating from BS2 to BS3, BS3 to BS4, in all these previous migrations, when there was a requirement of the changeover of the fuel, and then government level has planned some of the dates, it was expect rather it has proved that unfortunately the government has not able to honor the deadlines given by them, and the availability of fuel itself was delayed by anything between 6 months to 2 years. And when BS4 to BS6 this migration was about to happen, government also declared some X date for the availability of the new fuel which is suitable for BS6. Practically, with the past history and past experience with the government, all the automotive industry in India, everyone was relaxed, assuming that the fuel will not be available uh, before 6 months to 12 to 2 years before the after the date government given by the government. Everybody was sure that fuel will not be available as per the commitment given by the government. And to our surprise, everyone was taken to a shock when the fuel was made available 3 months ahead of the deadline which was given by the government. So that indicates the seriousness and the way sometime Honorable Minister for Road Transport and Highways talk adamantly. He says this is where we want to go, either with you or without you. This is the way he addresses the automotive industry in our country. And
Well,
in
it,
fact,
he has been a very strong leader, a very strong leader.
in fact, he has proven in his own city that when he was talking to the Indian automotive industry to provide 100% CNG, not CNG, some alternate fuel bus, none of the automotive industry in India had come forward, but Scania has given him two buses to operate on that particular fuel. And the way he said with you or without you has proven. And of course the automotive industry has also learned from it, and aligning with the government policies, which anyway previously also were aligned. But the only thing is the previous experience was getting delayed by for the commitment of the government is not getting addressed today, I mean is not being seen today. So sir, over to you, Mr. Sharma, again, because your discussions were interrupted in between.
So, as far as special steel industry is concerned, they are also working on reducing the pollution, basically the CO2 emission.
Yeah.
And many steel plant you will be finding is switching over to now the solar power. At least the electric power substitution is taking place. Recently, I think our Mukund Kalwe unit has signed an agreement with Tata Power to get 10 million units of power, and it's a win-win situation because the cost saving in Maharashtra, the power is 8.5, 9 rupees. And I think they signed at 3 rupees 70 paisa or so. You can think the saving will be almost 4,000 rupees a ton on the ultimate product, which is could be 3 to 4% of their production cost for stainless steel, I would say. Similarly, it is being now done by others. I'm also advising one of the plant. We are also going for 70 megawatt solar power soon. The power will be available at 3 rupees against 10 rupees which you are paying today. So the apart from the pollution control or a CO2 emission, the saving will be also enormous. I don't see in a short period changing over from blast furnace to a arc furnace 100%.
Yeah.
Slowly, movement will take place. New facilities may not come with same technology. There will be change in the technology. So I think apart from EV vehicle, which will save us the pollution on the road, and maybe steel plant are one, which are also working on the same principles today. Over to you.
Yeah. Sir, taking a clue from what you talked about the alternate power and probably the cost of power going down with the alternate power generation methods. So, couple of years back, particularly when I was in my college days, or probably even before that, in the school days, the government of India had that time came up with the policy of setting up or encouraging mini steel plants. And even I remember in Nagpur itself, there were about five steel mills, steel producing plants of the small capacities, including Forth India, Ravindra Steel, and Fakor, etc. So, over a period of time, the government policies has changed, and those steel mills were closed down because those were becoming uneconomical, etc. So, with this alternate kind of the power which is available, do you see that these kind of the steel mills, probably the Ravindra Steel Mill and Forth India, etc., those kind of steel mills again getting operational?
Small units may not again come up, but the units which are struggling. I am also looking after one of the consultant to ISMT, which is at Jejuri. They have a manufacturing capability of making 25,000, but they restrict to 20,000 because they feel the another 5,000 they are not able to sell because of the margins. If they can reduce cost by 5,000 rupees and maybe another 1 or 2,000 from other sources, I think they will go to full capacity. That
Okay.
is what I feel. And
Okay.
some plants which are closed down, I think like Upper India or SBQ or Adhunik, they may
Yeah.
also be operational possibly if the
Okay.
demand also is there or the cost goes down. Today, arc furnace route, whether it is Sarno Special or it is ISMT or Vardhman, they are definitely having a very poor margins compared to plants which are running with blast furnace route, whether it is Sunflag or Mukund or maybe Kalyani or maybe SLR Metallics, others who have a very good cost advantage only because of the cheaper hot metal available. So in worst of the situation, they are better off today. So, but pollution is going to be an issue. But I don't know how long government will allow them to run the blast furnaces and restrict with the scrapping policy. I don't see lot of scrap will be available. Plus, you must have read that 60 countries have decided not to allow export of scrap
Scrap. Yeah.
from their country because they say that this is the least polluting raw material available to us. Why not to utilize
Utilize them.
so at home rather than exporting it?
Okay.
Or
Yeah. Uh, Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Again, just you were talking about the availability of scrap. So probably one more arena and one more probably good news for you is the government vehicle scrappage policy.
yeah,
So it has been coming in force, and now with that, this government vehicle scrapping policy in place, about 3.5 million tons of the shredded scrap of the steel and about zero point 0.2 million tons of the aluminum scrap is expected to be available continuously for next 3 years.
good.
The in-house, that is the indigenous locally, which is generated because of the scrapping of the existing vehicle. But
Your
again,
is using some scrap which will be scrapped in Rohtak in Ludhiana, basically setting up
yeah,
I think around 1 million ton steel plant they are planning roughly. I think zero point 0.7 or 1 million tons
yeah, yeah,
already they are planning.
yeah. So annually we are spending about 10 million US dollars on the importing this shredded scrap, and we are expecting substantial saving in that because the local scrap which is available through the scrapping government scrapping policy, vehicle scrapping policy, should be able to support and reduce the cost of shredded scrap, which was sometime around 43,500 rupees ton. Probably, I don't know today, probably the
Today
data which is
36, 37, 38 is
okay.
landed at
Yeah,
the Pune
yeah,
area.
yeah.
Yesterday only I
So,
was there in Pune day before study.
okay. So,
38.
yeah. So this price is also expected to, come down little bit. Probably that will also help the steel mill. Uh, this is a good news. So with this, I think the points which probably I wanted you people to answer are being addressed very nicely by all of you. So before we close the audience, before we go to the audience, I would like to again go back to the panelist and if they would like to mention any point which probably I have not covered so far. The platform is open to all of you, honorable panelists.
Udayan, thank you very much for giving this opportunity once again. I would like to definitely ask Mr. Sharma how we are preparing on the hydrogen fuel as a fuel because this is being talked, the experiments are going on probably after 5 years. Definitely our preparedness will be required. So is there any strategy has been taken up for fuel as a hydrogen in form of gaseous level or maybe a form of metal hydrides? Are we preparing for something so that new steels will be also really equipped for the new cars which is coming up in the market?
Uh, well, the hydrogen is being talked about for the plants which are already making a DRI or a sponge iron from gas space. Today they are using natural gas. They can switch over to hydrogen. But you'll be surprised in India, we have only two gas-based plants. One with JSW now. It was earlier Vikram's Path in near Alibag, and one is with Hazira, that is Surat plant, with now taken over by other, but it was SR basically.
Yeah.
But the lot of DRI which is made is basically from the coal base. So those plants cannot be switched over to hydrogen. You need a different type of unit, but those who are already using gas worldwide. See, what is the plan of European steel making is switch over those DRI plant or create new DRI plant with hydrogen reduction. So your main coal or the gases are reduced, then generate power, whether with the solar or anything, renewable energy, and use that for melting. So the new route of melting will be using whatever scrap is available, otherwise DRI, 80% DRI, 20% scrap, and use hydrogen to reduce DRI, use renewable power, whether it is hydro or it is nuclear or wind or solar, to melt it. And rolling mill needs very small energy. It's not a very high requirement. In fact, in TMT mill today, people are directly feeding the billets to the rolling mill. In between, they have put the induction heater. So you have a again choice of using very small amount of fuel and using electrical energy to raise the temperature. So this is going to be the new roadmap. People talk about 92% of the pollution of the steel industry can be taken care by this process. This is going to be the future of process. Maybe it will take 5, 10 years, and everybody is looking to switch over by this process and shut down the blast furnace one by one. Especially Europe is very keen to switch over from blast furnace route to, but others are not still committing. The blast furnace life is 30, 40, 50 years. So I don't know those who are invested, they will still would like to, take the benefits. Okay. Over to Sanjay.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind information. Anybody
Mr.
wants to
Sharma,
take it?
Mr. Sharma, again, one question from my side. I heard, probably I may not be right, some talks are going on about usage of hydrogen even in the blast furnace.
Yeah, it is basically, see, today the blast furnaces can use, apart from metallurgical coke, which is basic, maybe 350 to 400 kiloton,
Yeah.
you can use the either pulverized coal. The plant which I am consulting, we are using pulverized coal to the extent of 160 kg,
Okay.
substitute 90% of metallurgical coke. Or you can use CNG, which is not available in India. But one plant which I have visited 2, 3 times in 2008, 2009 in Australia uses 60 to 70 cubic meter of CNG gas. So that can be substituted by hydrogen definitely. Tata Steel already have tried at Jamshedpur, but it in a very small way. But
Okay.
finally, how the big blast furnaces can use 150, 160 kg coal can be equivalent. Hydrogen can be also used as energy, but how it
Okay.
will behave, what will be I have not studied so far. And
Okay.
let me, I am only a process metallurgist as far as blast furnace knowledge is concerned, because
Okay.
I entered blast furnace route only after I had 25 years of experience. So I have learned only the very superficial level, but
Okay.
I will go to detail of hydrogen uses. But it is being tried in some countries and in Tata Steel, but only it was a news, but it has not, we are not known of whether they have taken it further. But anyway, I will try to speak to my classmate. Mr. Hemant Nirudkar is my classmate, by the
Yeah.
way, who
Okay.
worked Tata Steel as
Yeah.
managing director. I am in touch with him. So maybe
Okay.
I'll find out whether he knows little more from Tata about hydrogen uses.
Even I think Kalyani, this Kirloskar Ferrous, they are also planning, or they have already conducted some trials, something like that. And
I'm a consultant to Kirloskar Ferris.
Okay.
They are they are setting up a steel plant for making rounds.
Okay.
Well, because they are buying today rounds for Baramati and Ahmednagar plant
Yeah.
from the market.
From the market. Yeah.
2 years they want to set up zero point 0.7 million first with 0.35, doubling it. They have
Okay.
hot metal, the one blast furnace they will dedicate for the steel, then the second one. This
Okay.
is and they have retained me as a consultant for last 1 year. I'm with
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So far they are going for PCI by February. They are even slow in implementing. They have not gone for pulverized coal also. They are
Okay.
doing next 2 months. They are starting pulverized coal injection now.
Okay. 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 Great. So, any other panelist have
Yes,
any questions?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
please,
I
please.
not a question, but just one point what we missed. So very important point in between we just touched and we left for last minute discussion. That is the artificial intelligence and autonomous vehicles or ADAS features on a car. So what it
Yes.
means for metallurgy point of view is we are talking about crash requirement and energy, material, high strength that is on one side. But another side is the active safety is coming out as a there active safety is coming out is one of the future requirement, and I see many investments in many big companies they are happening for active safety, that is software control. That if we can avoid an accident, that is more preferred than just controlling the accident and injury criteria and escaping criteria and designing steels and all these things. So that is very important point which is coming out, and that is very important in future because electrical vehicle is naturally by DNA itself, it is more attached to artificial intelligence or autonomous vehicles. So what it means is all the software controlled vehicles or the wheels on software wheels on software. So that kind of a thing where it comes out, that is the future which is really coming out very fast.
Okay.
For driverless cars in
Yeah.
India.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Driverless is a actually application, but what it means is if you can avoid an accident, if
About
you can
accident.
recognize
Yeah.
obstacles and all these things, if you can avoid accident, then all requirements of complex steel and will come down.
Because I have
Uh,
seen driverless cars in California being
yeah.
driven in an area where I was visiting my son without
Okay.
drive, but it was only experimental basis, still nothing commercial so far.
Tesla is commercial, partially, not 100%, but Tesla is a higher level kind of a car.
Yeah.
Not level
See,
5, but at least 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah.
ADAS features to these new cars is very much there, and the basically those regulations are also being in place for India. Similarly, many MNCs who are bringing their cars, they are trying to cannibalize as today's scenario. But now that safety aspect has been taken on a highest level, the activation of those features, as like Europe has been also done, and many features are being introduced in the new cars which are coming up. So ADAS features are very much there, wherein the distance control, safety, safe brake systems, all are being implemented in the new cars which are coming up. Of course, today these cars are ranging above 25 lakhs is the another scenario, but this is not going to remain for a quite long time. And to my perception, it is next 5 years, the most of the cars will have those features as a common part of it.
How
Okay.
So
I
this
see this is how I see this from business perspective is I can see the passive safety like crash sensors and the materials. All these graphs are getting flattened out at top. So it is as if, of course, it is growing, but at the same time, the rate of growth has come down. And instead of that, from business point of view, a lot of investments are going into electronic industry, and those features are coming out very fast. So that graph is crossing this active passive safety. So many industries are changing their track from like airbags industry. The airbag industry is not only starting from airbag developing and sensors and all, but they are adding the software wing in their company itself. They are acquiring different companies, mergers and acquisitions happening like software industry into this industry. So some new trend is coming up.
So probably with this discussions from Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe and Mr. Sanjiv Mantri, uh, probably there could be one threat to the steel mills or steel industry, in the sense if there are accidents are not going to happen, why there is a need of all these ultra high strength steel, UHSS, AHSS, which supporting your automotive to achieve 5-star rating and all those kind of stuff. So if there are no accidents, why there is a need to have 5-star safety in our current conventional way or in current conventional technology, which is getting addressed by the special steels. So probably that could be one of the threat which even being talked about on the many international platforms. So that is really a point which I think everybody needs to keep at the backup of our mind. And
Yeah.
I think we have just touching the time limit which is given by Mr. Sandekar to us. So, Mr. Sandekar, I would like to know whether is there any opportunity that the delegates who are listening us online, can they ask questions to the eminent panelist, or we need to uh, wrap up and close now?
Actually, the system is they can put their question in a chat box. So
Okay.
that, I will see if there are any questions. We can appeal that if
Yeah.
there anybody wants to, have any questions, put up any questions, they can put it in the chat box, and then you can see those in the chat box.
Okay.
Let's wait for some time.
Okay.
If there are any questions? So meanwhile, can we conclude, sir, that it is not very safe to have steel business in this country because of the
No, no,
trend of EV? It
no,
is
no,
very
no.
difficult to judge the future demand of steel.
No, until the passenger has to sit in the car and touch the ground, still is required.
Yes, yes, very much required. See, the ecosystem which has been developed in India is very much going ahead hand in hand with all other industries as well. So as
Jamnagar,
engineering industry grows, the automotive industry grows, steel is inevitable part of it. So not to worry about it.
But
It's a
as,
race.
as the discussion, I'm seeing the tone of the discussion is that steel may not have that, growth trajectory. It will slow down. Is it, uh, is it like that?
Uh, just I would like to answer your question, Mr. Sandekar. Probably the current way or the growth what we have seen so far, probably there could be a change in terms of the growth parameters. Uh, More about the quality. So far, we have been talking about the quantity growth, but
Hmm.
probably there is an opportunity for the quality growth where the steel industry can come up with the value addition, more of
Hmm.
a value addition. The way I mean, Mr. Mantri was saying that the need for the comb structure, or the way like he was talking about the some sponge field or something, soft material, soft material backed up steel, etc. So if these kind of value additions are being thought of, and unfortunately, so far what I have been seen is the steel mill is working in silos, automotive industries are working in silos. So their interaction and understanding each other's pain point, rather than a kind of cat on mice kind of play, if that kind of interaction happens, and probably the forum like Steel World or Asian Metallurgy can be a platform for having these kind of healthy discussions and understanding each other's pain point, and to support each other to come out of this scenario, catch 20 scenario. So I think that is the I mean the change in the dynamics of the business also.
Okay, okay. And what about the steel components, engine parts? With the advent of EV, engine parts are reducing.
that will get
Yeah.
replaced. No? It won't be transmission units are not required. So those still definitely the requirement of volume will definitely go down. Maybe
Yeah,
125 kg of steel which is used by cars will definitely go down with
So
EV cars.
probably during our discussion, this point, I think I have touched upon little
yeah,
brief
yeah, yeah.
that
Yes.
probably the form of the steel which is going into the cars may change. Probably weight will increase, but today it is kind of about 40 to 60% depending on different models. The ratio could be different. It
Hmm.
is the long products versus the flat product. Whereas this ratio may totally get skewed, and the more and more volumes and more or more consumption will be from the long products, from the flat products, and probably the percentage share of the flat these long products may go down. That probably may happen.
Yeah, but the typical scenario is long products are being manufactured or produced by other set of companies, and flats are being produced by some other sets of companies. So it's a red signal for long product companies.
No, I will put it other way around. No, no, I will put it, Mr. Sandekar, other way around.
Ah,
Couple of years back, Tata Motors or Mahindra,
hmm.
they were known as the either commercial vehicle manufacturers or the low-end passenger vehicle manufacturer, like the rural vehicles and all that. Over a period of time today, if you look at the quality of Tata Motors, particularly passenger cars, they are world class.
Hmm.
If you look at Mahindras, they have the platter, which is right from their commercial vehicle to the kind of vehicles which are appreciated by everyone. So this kind of change when can happen at the OEM level or automotive level, I think a similar change will be absorbed and I think will be addressed very successfully even by the steel mills. There are the past histories, I mean, taking clue from the automotive OEMs like Tata Motors and Mahindra. I think a lot of many can be. I mean,
Are you
I
asking long
say
product companies to become flat product companies?
No,
yes.
that won't happen.
Oh,
It's not possible.
sir, at one point of time, have any truck owner or truck garage owner thought that Tata Motors can make a world class vehicle like Nexon?
Okay.
Probably answer is no. Probably answer is no.
So that
Probably
anything can happen. That is
yeah,
anything
yeah.
can happen.
First I say because Indigo has good numbers.
As a steel man, I get the scenario is not very encouraging.
Chandekar,
No, I will put it other way around. The scenario will be more dynamic.
I know. More fluid, more uncertain.
Yeah. Okay, if there are no questions from the audience,
Yeah, I don't think there are any questions because the chat box is empty. So I think let us close down. Please close down, sir.
okay. Yeah, Mr. Nibandhe, you have any question?
No, no, there is
Okay.
no question.
Yeah, yeah. So my eminent panelists have really put the perspective, and I will say it was a very big platter to put on this platform in such a short time. I think that was very much possible because of the eminent panelists like Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe, Sanjiv Mantri, and Mr. Sharma. So thanks to all of you. And very clearly, the picture that is coming up is yes, lot of regulations are coming in, and automotive industries are trying to address those regulations requirements to meet the governmental policies and the environmental policies which are talked, not only at the national level but even at the international level, making our vehicles compatible to export to all over the world. With that background, how steel mill particularly can contribute in terms of the high strength steels, etc. Probably the change in the form may happen, and with that we see that there are a lot of opportunities even for the steel mills and steel industry as a whole, and not only steel mills but even the other materials like aluminium, titanium, those coming up, and even the polymers can see lot many challenges and a role to support these challenges. uh, and I think we are geared up for that. At least Mr. Sharma has given a good confidence to my colleagues, panelists, Mr. Sanjiv Mantri and Mr. Nibandhe, that yes, today Indian steel mills are really geared up to meet the challenges which are posed by these two eminent panelists. And with that note, and with a small fear, Mr. Chandekar has introduced is the steel mills or the steel business has become little dynamic. But Mr. Chandekar, let me assure you, it's not going to be a bad business. It's definitely going to be a profitable business. Only thing is, it will be little more dynamic compared to the current scenario. And with that note, I close down this discussion. And my sincere thanks to the my eminent panelists, Mr. Sanjiv Mantri, Mr. Sanjay Nibandhe, and Mr. Sharma. Over to you, Mr. Sandekar.
Yeah, thank you very much, all the panelists, and especially Mr. Udayan Pathak. We had a very good discussion, very absorbing discussion. And though my concern was slightly negative, I don't know. I mean, if everything is going to be good, I will be very happy. So it's good. And thank you again for a very absorbing discussion, interesting, a lot of takeaways. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good.